City services across Philadelphia have struggled to keep pace with the rapid expansion of its population, with many citizens in Gaudy Bay and Atkinson complaining that their rubbish is piling up. Not only this, but residents in Tinney, particularly graduates of the Technology Institute, are finding there's an increasing shortage of jobs, with unemployment soaring back up to record highs again. The mayor has decided to address residents' concerns by firstly committing to expand the city's garbage services, along with allocating a small strip of land to a new service vehicle precinct to ensure backup vehicles are available when needed. And secondly, developing a new office park in Tinney to try and address some of the job shortages and reduce unemployment. Let's dive in. So we're going to start off today by looking at our garbage problems. So we have a lot of garbage warnings over this side of the city, and we also have some cropping up now over in Tinney as well. And when I was having a look at our garbage services, they're not doing too bad. So we've got a good processing speed on the landfill. The stored garbage isn't too much. Obviously we've got the recycling centre now as well, which keeps that down. We're only using 13 out of 20 vehicles, but we do have the garbage truck depot that we could add to help supply more garbage trucks to the area. So I think we're going to go ahead and do that there. And we're also going to head over to the recycling centre, which is here, because they interestingly have 18 out of 15 trucks in use. Not sure how that maths works, but there we go. But we do also have a garbage truck depot here as well. The monthly upkeep isn't that severe, and it also sits nicely into the footprint. So why not? Let's go ahead and do that. So that now gives us an extra 10 garbage trucks for our recycling centre too. So I'm hoping that that should help across this side of the city. But I'm also thinking over in Tinney, we're quite a way away over here. So I think it would be good to add in a new recycling centre. And now that we have the Japanese recycling centre, so it's actually the same processing speed, all the rest of it, as the main one. I don't think it has all of the different upgrades to it, but it has a much smaller footprint. So we could sit it in quite nicely over here near the Tinney industrial site. So I think we should go ahead and do that. And we've got this sort of semi-ish flat area, or flattish at least here, which would mean the smell and things like that is quite nicely shaded from the town, although obviously not from this direction, but we can add some nice trees to cover it up and that sort of thing. So let's go ahead and do this. So we need to flatten off a little bit of this land here, and then we can tidy up the terrain around it afterwards. But something like that I'm hoping should be big enough to facilitate the entire building. Yes, it is. Wonderful. So I'll add that in like this, and then we're just going to do a really simple alleyway road access to it. I don't think we need anything more than that. So I'd quite like to come out of this road towards where that hut is. But then I'm thinking we go round the building like this, because we also have a back entrance, or a break at least, in the fencing over here. So I think it would be quite nice to add a little entrance in there if we can. And what we could do with this as well is change up this surface texture. It's very kind of bright concrete at the moment. So let's use area bucket replace tool. And if we change it to a sort of similar colour to our alleyway road, I think it blends in a little bit better. And then of course the other thing I would like to do here is also add in lane connectors to make this seem a little bit more appropriate. So we're going to add in our wear and tear road markings. Oops, that's the gravel one, never mind, we'll cover that up. Wear and tear road markings all the way down here. Let's turn off snapping so we can get this in nicely, just so we can symbolise where those trucks are going in and out, and make the join between the alleyway road and the complex seem much less kind of stark. Something more like that is better, and then we'll just get a few little decals, a few stained decals and that sort of thing, and we'll muddy it up a little bit. So yeah, I think that's pretty simple but kind of effective. Then we can just tidy up this terrain around here and add in a few little trees as a border. Just like that. And so yeah, we have 16 of 15 vehicles being used here. Interesting. So that should help at least with some of these garbage problems. We'll wait a little bit and see at the end of the episode if it has helped at all. We do have some hearse issues as well. And I did notice this crematorium was not sending out any vehicles, so I actually just relocated it and replopped it in, and it does seem to be sending them out now. It had no deceased, no processing speed, nothing, so it seemed to be doing nothing at all. So I'm hoping that that will help. I do wonder if we do need some death care potentially down this end. Wow, there's a lot. Just had a load more hearses spring up there. Wonderful. And we could potentially squeeze in a big cemetery up next to the highway here. I'm not too opposed to that actually, so let's go ahead and do that. Wow, that does yeah, that does interfere with the landscape a little bit. We can sort that out. Let's just smooth it off to its level further around, and then we can get our smoothing tool. Not that. And then we can get our smoothing tool and just bring in these slopes around the edge so that it's not too stark. I do not mind the cliff texture. I know a lot of people say I always get rid of it. I don't. I keep it in strategic places, but I feel like when you've got a sharp square corner of cliff texture around a cemetery like that, it looks totally unrealistic. So in these types of places, yes, I will definitely, absolutely get rid of them. And then here we could just do a simple road connection right from the entrance. I'll just use an alleyway road for this, and we'll loop it down round here to meet up with this roundabout at this point. Although it does get rid of our pavements on that side, which I don't super love. So let's actually just amend maybe that first section to a proper road like that, and we'll get rid of the pavements. So we'll just have a grass border there. Not the pavements, the parking spaces. Don't want people parking on that bit of road there. And that connects it in nicely. So that does give them some death care down over in Atkinson. We can come back and do some little touch of detailing around that, but it doesn't sit in too bad. So hopefully that will help to get rid of quite a few of these warnings, but we'll see at the end of the episode. So yeah, the plan for today is this area here. So we obviously have really high need for offices, and if we take a look at our unemployment, you would have seen it's up to 20.8 at the moment. 20.9, 20.8, can't make up its mind. So yeah, we definitely want to try and reduce that. And the other good thing is, if we take a look at this workplace availability tab here, you can see here we're maxed out. There's only one open position in the entire city, which is quite incredible. So even at that well-educated, highly educated level, we still got maxed out jobs. So that's where we want to fill it with quite a few offices in here. But I also do want to extend out the housing. We need to keep an eye on housing as well, because we've got huge demand for that. And I think a little bit of the row housing extending round to this side of the highway would be quite nice and help this part of Tinny sit in a little bit better to build up some density coming this way. We obviously, of course, also need to sort out this horrendous bus garage that we just plonked in here and did nothing with. So yeah, that's the plan anyway. But just before we dive into that, there was a couple of things, or one thing in particular, that you guys really didn't like about this junction, which was the merging of two fast roads into one, like this place here. And I think there's only 2 spots where we actually do this, and we can upgrade a little section. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to turn off snapping for this so we can get it in quite nicely. And we're just going to add that extra lane in here so that they merge in together a little bit further down the line. Hopefully that's a bit more safe now. And we can upgrade that to a retaining wall, which I do quite like actually. It was a bridge originally. Yeah, I think we'll stick with the bridge section there. That does that one. And the only other place where I could see where 2 lanes were merging directly into 1 lane was here. So again, we'll go ahead and add a small little section of slip road here. So again, they've got that small section of road to merge in together rather than the longer bit. Could we go 1 step further? Yeah, we could. We could offer them a little bit more space to merge into 1 lane before they get onto that highway there. But that should be it. There were no other points where we had that dangerous 2 lanes going into 1 lane. We've got a few of 1 lane going into 2 here, which I don't see as dangerous at all. They're travelling in the same direction. But aside from that, I think that was indeed the only point. So yeah, there we go. Hopefully that's made it a little bit more safer. Okay, so first things first, just looking at connections to this particular area here. Obviously, we're not joining it onto the highway. We do have a connection in this way, and there's one from this top highway coming in here. But I think adding another connection onto this highway here would be kind of needed to get people in and out of this space. Now, I know this is a highway road, but I think it's acting more as a sort of a minor arterial or collector road as it comes up here. So it's not got buildings directly onto it, and I want to maintain that, of course, as well. But I think we can have quite a few junctions. I'm not opposed to that, which is why I think adding another one in here when we've already got one there and one there is not too much of a bad thing. And of course, we could add a crossroads at this point, but I think that just asks for more traffic. So I think it would be better to have a straight T intersection somewhere around here. Now, the other thing I'm conscious of as well is I want this to be able to go underneath this rail line and then also cross over this highway, because we need to also be considering how people are going to get from this side into this area without having to use the highway network, because we don't want to funnel everyone through one junction. So we come up to 7.5, which is what we know we need to be to get over the road safely. Then we can come back to ground level this side. So the slope is reasonably sharp, but it's not ridiculous. So I think that's okay. Here we obviously have a little bit of a problem in terms of the rail and that feeding into this. So we'll come back to that in just a second. I also would like this road to run up here, but I'm actually thinking we might put some commercial along this strip here. So maybe we could use a parking road for this. So we do have a 2-lane road with 60-degree parking on one side, which we made using Road Builder. So I think this would be a nice addition to have here in front of the commercial, just so we don't constantly have all of those cars all over the road all the time. Now I want it to go the other way, and I'm going to do it right up against this retaining wall here. So something like that I think would be okay, and then we can have a strip of commercial along here just to offer some shopping to this neighbourhood. Now this doesn't look, I'm not sure if that's going to be tall, although the lamppost is right up to the top of the railway, so maybe it is okay actually. So if we get rid of the retaining walls at that point and we turn this bit into a bridge, very kind of difficult to tell if it's actually tall enough. I think it is. I think it would probably have one of those low-hanging bridge signs just in case you're in a truck that is too tall for it. But I think it's just about feasible for us to get away with that. So what I'm going to do here is, oh, the train's coming and they're not going to like this. I'm going to move this node just up to the edge here, and same goes for this one as well. Let's just make sure we haven't made that super wonky donkey. There we go. That's not too bad. Now this side doesn't look like it's the same height as here, so let's just raise that up a bit. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I think that is absolutely fine. And it does give us the opportunity as well to get rid of some of these retaining walls. So actually, if we do that here, can we keep it just on this side? Because I quite like it up against, I think, this commercial strip here. I'm not opposed to that at all. But then if we come into here, let's make this pretty small. If we can grab this height here and just bring this out a little bit, we can make this side a tiny bit smoother. And then I'm actually just going to push it back in closer from this edge. So levelling the terrain off this side, which gives us that bit of an embankment here. Because then I think if we, I know this is complicated, but if we then change this back to a retaining wall, yeah, we do get a bit of a bank in there. So you can't actually see the retaining wall and it looks more like the train line's embanked. No, I'm going to get rid of the retaining wall side. I think that looks a little bit more natural like that, although we do get the jaggedy edge of the terrain. Yeah, we'll leave it like that. And then we might get rid of the retaining walls down here as well. Make it feel a little bit more natural. Yeah, I think we will do that. So we'll just have this section of retaining wall where we're going to have this commercial, where the road's really up close to it. A little bit more tidying up to do here, but there we go. Okay, so behind our commercial strip here, I'm thinking we're going to have row housing in this section, and then we'll also have a little bit of row housing framing the road up here to around about this junction, and have the offices kind of stemming in around the back of it here, and then some further offices and facilities out this side. Now the other thing I did think as well is medical. I would quite like to add another med clinic, I think, down here, although those bin warnings have gone, I've just realised. Wonderful. But if we take a look at this one, it only has 3 ambulances, so it's not got a huge capacity, and this area is starting to become quite big and busy. So I think having a med clinic somewhere over here would be quite a nice thing to do. Now I'm tossing up between the USA Northeast one, which I think looks amazing, or actually the Eastern European one, which we can change to this red brick colour, which I think would lend itself really kind of nicely to this sort of row house, slightly more red brick dominant area, I suppose you could say. And we could sit this up with the back onto the main highway, like this, and still have space for our road to run up in front of it. And I think as well, what this adds is a nice little bit of height here as we come down the highway. Particularly, we're going to have offices behind it, and some of those are going to have a little bit of height, spoiler alert, when we come onto that. So I think this will be a nice complement to it. So let's give that some road access and bring this out down here. And then let's work on the row housing here. So I'm actually thinking we'll use the one-way road with angled parking, because I think this will give us some quite nice kind of effects in here, and also give us a bit of a one-way street system to work with as well, which is not something we've really done, and I know someone commented on that as well. So yeah, we'll definitely be doing a lot of one-way streets around the downtown, that's for sure, when we come on to do that. So watch this space there. If we do something along those lines, let's turn this one around. What that means is you have to come in here and then you go out onto this junction, although the other thing we could do here actually is not join up this section, so we could have it all one way like that. And if we bring this one out to here and then back down like so, yeah, let's do that. And then we can have a nice block of kind of housing in the middle here and then row housing around it. I think that'll work. And then that gives us on-street parking in an appropriate way. So they can actually also still park on this side of the road, which will make it feel quite busy around here. But we'll stop them. Oh, I already have stopped them parking on this section of road, and I'll probably stop it along this part as well, I think. So yeah, let's go ahead and get in some row housing and some commercial here. And the commercial, I'm going to probably focus on US Northeast commercial for this. I feel like it's got a nice vibe to it that will fit in quite well with our sort of row housing look. And then we'll go for a mixture of row housing from different packs. There we go, we've got all of our residents moving in, gathering on their porchways. Yeah, nice little mixture of different row housing here. I've also left places like this where we can do a bit of alleyway detailing up to the back of this building. So I'm imagining there's houses and stuff in there. Oh, I've just realised there's a window being covered up, but never mind. We've got some nice detailing to do along the shop front here. I also thought this point could be a nice little corner cafe, so we can do some outside seating and that sort of thing when it comes to the detailing time lapse. Also added in a back alley for these shops, so they've got access in here. Again, more detailing to do in the back spaces of these houses. And definitely as well tidying up along this edge of the highway here. We want fences all the way along. Try and squeeze in a few kind of tall, thin trees maybe as a bit of a barrier for them. And here too, I also want to tidy this up. I'm probably thinking actually we'll make it look like back entrances into the houses. So yeah, we have got some people still on the pavement, but it just about squeezes in, so it's not too bad. Yeah, more back alley detailing in here as well to do, so we'll come back to that, but that gives us a nice little boost to the population, and also a little bit of a commercial strip there. And we have a crash on Birch Street, which has caused the most insane amount of traffic as all of our new residents are moving in. We've got a big backup here on the highway, also in this direction as well, where I'm guessing people want to turn right into this neighbourhood. And then we've also got all of the streets up here totally backing up. So yeah, even down this little alleyway street. Goodness. Hopefully, well, the police and the road maintenance are on scene to fix this. There seems to be a trailer in the middle of the road there as well. They've jackknifed. Well, it's cleared, but my goodness, that is a lot of traffic. So before we come onto the offices, I've just noticed our budget has taken an absolutely ginormous tanking hit. So we're now in negative money because obviously we put in this medical centre, we added buses last time, which are pretty costly. That bus station's or the bus depot, 103,000 a month. And this recycling centre is £206,000 a month. Yeah. So I'm hoping, oh, it's gone, it's a little bit better, but we're still in the red. So I'm hoping putting in some offices here can rectify some of that. So yeah, let's crack on. So I'm going to start by adding a road connection here, which can run up alongside the railway network, and that's going to head out towards the offices, and then we can put in some more medium density housing up this side. Now, let's actually just talk about the offices that I want to put in here, because there's a couple of very specific ones that I would like to use, and one of them is the round office, which I just think would sit into this little curve of the highway really, really nicely here. So let's go ahead and plop that in like that, and then we can do the road networks, etc. around it. In fact, we could even move this back just a tiny touch. We obviously want to do a bit of detailing around it and protect it from the highway in that sense. But the reason for this is I think it gives us a nice little pop in height for this area. And particularly, I was looking at this highway, and I always think about viewpoints and sight lines. As you're coming down here, you're obviously going to, very far in the distance over here, have the main skyline. But it's quite nice to have that little touch of height as you come around here, particularly that medical centre, the Eastern European Medical Centre as well adds to that. So that, to me, with the university sitting on the hill, looks pretty good. And I think as well we can add to that by using some of the buildings from the Chinese content creator pack. So we have this CN bonus office, which I really like the look of. Now it does get a little bit high when we go up the levels, so I'm thinking maybe we stick with this one. It's a slightly different height to our round office, which adds to the sort of dynamicism, I suppose, of this area. And if we position this somewhere around about here, so that's because we've got this really nice corner entrance to it. So I think we could do a car park down this side, bring the road in around here, and that'll kind of frame off this nice corner entrance nicely. Let's just pause it while we haven't got connections in. Then you can see if we go back to this viewpoint as well, that's going to add a nice dynamic behind that round office building, which I quite enjoy. And there's also another one from the China pack. I mean, we do have things like this, but I think maybe that's getting a little bit bulky. But yeah, there's this one, for example, which isn't too high. It gets a little bit higher, I think, with the different levels. We could even go up to level 3. No, I think we'll stick with the lower levels here. But this one also could be implemented here as well to add another dynamic to the area. I'm not entirely sure where this one will go, but I am thinking somewhere along the lines of the back of this office building. Perhaps we keep them quite separate like this. So when you're coming in, you've got that little bit of lower density in front of that taller building there. I think that'll work quite well. And as well, then that adds a little bit of height in between Tinney and the view out over to Fewhaven, Gaudy Bay, etc. I think that's pretty good. And then we can use some more lower density regular office zoning in and around it to fill out this area. So let's go ahead and get these roads in. So we'll wrap round the side of this building here. And then we can come out to these two. And I think that needs to end in a combination of car parks, etc. down there. And we should be able to just about squeeze in a car park at this point. So we can do some of Dome's car parking up against that road there. And we'll definitely want more in here as well, so not just only that point for sure. We could also loop some around the back here. Again, I'll do some domes in there. Wondering where potentially we could have a bigger car park as well. This is a little bit broken and needs some tidying up, but that actually works quite nicely using the alleyway road there. And then we can connect it back into this road at this point. So let's bring this one down. And then we can carry this one back out in this direction. And loop it back in there. So we can have some row housing in this section with some back alleys. Maybe actually some more medium density taller buildings. And then more of the lower density offices around here. With maybe a green space, I think, in this middle section. Like a nice park area with some food trucks or that sort of thing. To keep the office workers entertained and give them a little space right in the middle of all of this highway infrastructure where they can go to take a nice break. That could be it, perhaps. Now let's see if those warnings all go away. Yes, they do. Wonderful stuff. And then I also think we'll come in this side with some more of the lower density offices up against the highway, perhaps up here as well, just to fill out that space. Okay, so I've tried to pack things in pretty closely, to be honest. So we've got quite a dense office district here. I did put a couple of little commercial shops on the corner, give the office workers somewhere to go to get their lunch. And then we've got residential down this side, so we've got a bit of a mix. I used one of the northeast pack medium buildings in here to go nicely with the commercial, the other side of that junction there. Mixed in a bit of row housing with a couple of condo blocks here as well, which I think gives a nice, like, sort of dynamic neighbourhood. We've got this modern building, maybe some buildings were demolished to replace it with this in the middle of these slightly sort of older, probably been there a long time buildings. And then we come onto the office park. Dotted in a little bit of car parking around here as well, and we do also now have this pedestrian bridge, which is getting a nice load of usage across the road up to Tinney Technology Institute. So that's great to see. So a lot of detailing to come in and do around all of these buildings here. Across this side as well, I did actually just drop in a few more offices, but then also a couple of little industrial buildings down the back here, making sure that they were the small ones, so they're not going to get any smokestacks or any of the big sort of industrial decoration assets onto them. And we got these offices in the middle of it, so I think that's kind of realistic. You would find little warehouses around the back of office parks like this on the outskirts of town, so yeah, a little bit of detailing to do around and that'll be sorted, and of course we need to come in and fix that. But just before we do that, I do want to talk about this small little segment in here, which I mentioned last time when I put the highway in, that could potentially be a junkyard. Now I think I'd like to, because it's actually quite a big area, follow through with that. So I think we're going to have a kind of wrecking yard, junkyard in down this side, but then the rest of it, I'm going to take an idea from Nomis, the wonderful Nomis Towns, who also has a YouTube channel. Go and check him out if you haven't already. Who suggested we actually put like a parking lot precinct in here, which I really like the idea of. So I think what we're going to do, I think it's called a precinct in the States, where you basically find service vehicles and buses and things like that all parked up in a big yard. So that's what we're going to do with pretty much the rest of this space. And so for that, I'm just going to grab an alleyway road, and like we mentioned last time, we're going to bring it out underneath this bridge here. So we're going to connect into our small local road down that end there. I'm going to leave space either side, so that we've got space to maybe put a car park in one side and then come onto the precinct the other side. And then I'm going to get a road, I'm going to turn off snapping for this, that runs pretty much right up alongside our highway retaining walls there. And this is just going to connect in the junkyard that will be at this back end next to the precinct park, which will be down here. So yeah, we'll go something like that. And then ultimately, the rest of this is just a prop-heavy detailed build. So I think we're going to jump into that now and finish off our little office park housing area. And now our new city precinct and junkyard, shall we say? Okay, so I am fully blaming the Amazon delivery driver who rang my doorbell and made me not record the second half of our vehicle precinct time-lapse. I'm so sorry. And I really needed to just get this video out, so I haven't re-recorded it. I'm so sorry. But here it is. Here it is. So with this little area, I did actually decide to upgrade these highways to a key wall side. So you can see here we've got these nice crash barriers all the way up here, which I think works really, really well, in particular in between these two slip roads here. And then around the actual precinct area here, we have added in a big, tall metal fence, barbed wire at the top. I've just realised that bus is poking through the back. We'll move that. And then we've got this lovely kind of dusty, dirty, out of the way yard area. A few little tyre marks seeping through here and there with all of the different service vehicles available packed up in here. Quite a few prison vans at the back there. We don't even have a prison yet, but we'll come on to that at some point, I'm sure. Now I did also actually put in, if we can see it here, some little invisible car parks at the entrance here, so people should hopefully drive through the closed fence, the closed gate there, and come in and actually sort of use this area a little bit, hopefully. Same goes for up here. I've done a junkyard up here as mentioned, and there's a couple of invisible parking spaces in the entranceway here. And we've also got a functional industrial building here too, to encourage people to actually come down this way and use this area. Yeah, the flooring. This is what took me ages. The flooring, the terrain textures here. So I did use a asphalt surface from the Real Vision decals pack and then added Gaga XM's kind of stone coverage on top of it that you can see seeping through. And then on top of that, we've got a load of decals, including kind of dusty ones, dirty stain ones, tyre mark decals, yeah, some of the concrete ones from Real Vision in there too. And then down at this end, we've got this Real Vision grass decal kind of edging to it, which I quite like, make it look a little bit overgrown. Very similar for here as well. We've got an asphalt surface from Real Vision, covered up with Gaga XM's amazing translucent stone surface on the top. Just gives it that extra kind of like worn and dirty feel, which I think is needed for a sort of junk industrial yard such as this. We've got a bit of a grassy patch in this corner, which I quite enjoy. Little bits of trash all over this place. And then some nice piles of rubble as we come up here. So you can actually see this sort of from the highway slip road. So you can see those piles piling up next to it, which, yeah, I quite like there. And then we've got a little bit of a grassy border at the back here where it's a bit overgrown and less kept, shall we say, in that back corner. But yeah, that was it. So it was a lot of vehicle propping, but the main thing was all this surface work which I did, which I'm really, really super pleased with how it's come out. Really like actually having these sort of sandy patches in the middle of concrete areas. Just gives it that little extra effect of realism, I think. I think at least, anyway. So yeah, that was that. And then we come on to the office park. So we've just done some nice fencing around this one, added in some flowers, some walls, and kind of made it a little bit more purposeful on the corner, a bit more manicured. Added all these car parks around these different office buildings. And then in particular, actually, I really like this. Because it was quite a small space, we've managed to utilise some of the small parks in here. So these are all fully functional and hopefully people will actually come and use them at some point, we shall see. We've got a little food truck court down that end, a little bit of green space in there and just some surface work to make the path seem a little bit more appealing. Added a couple of extra prop lights in there too, but yeah, hopefully we'll see some people actually using that. Again, down here we've just done a bit more manicuring around the offices, changed up some of the surfaces around this one to make it feel a little bit more appealing, and then got our little car parks in. Now the office area, I haven't really done too much to it other than adjusting a few surfaces here or there to cover up some like odd patches of grass that just looked a bit unrealistic like there. We've got some extra walls in down this car park here, and added in a few little extra trees outside the front of this one. And then yeah, it really was just tidying up a lot of the surfaces and the fencing and things around the houses, making sure that was all appropriate. Lovely to see lots of people walking across this bridge. Love that, absolutely love that. Now these houses as well, where they back onto this street, I just got rid of all the props. You can see they're still sitting on their seats outside the back of the houses, even though I have deleted their seats. But it sort of makes it feel like they go onto that street, so it doesn't look quite as odd now, but the fronts are technically this side. Again, this neighbourhood, we've just tidied up a lot of the fencing and surfaces and things around the front of the houses, like here, added in this fence panel along the side so you don't just see right into the back of their gardens. And then we come on down to this strip where we've got some nice little features, like this little back alley here, which I've added into the back. I think I mentioned it when we were placing it in. Just got a tree in there, a few little benches, and it goes up to that back door of that house. We've also got this lovely little back of the commercial shops area here. A little bit of graffiti in there, some trash, some containers. Same goes for this side as well. And I think these are the type of things that just help make commercial strips and sort of busier, it's not really a town centre, but this kind of area a little bit more alive, is having just these tiny little back alleys where you can dump a few props, a bit of trash, some graffiti in there. And it does actually feel like it's actual access to the shops, which you can see here. Again, we just tidied up the surfaces, added in this lovely little cafe area, which I think is kind of cute and quaint on this corner. Hopefully. I did actually also, talking about cafes, add in this little food truck under here, just so we got that on the side of the street, and put some concrete surface under one side and made it overgrown on the other. Now, actually, talking about the rail line here, you can see I did a bit of work on these. So we have got fencing along the top now, but it's really hard to get it right up to the fence of the bridge without it looking really wonky and horrible. So yeah, it's not 100% perfect, but it's in there. And then on these banks, I actually, again, used some of Gaga XM's amazing grass services just to cover up some of the cliff texture here, which makes it look a little bit more overgrown. And like it's been there for a while, I guess. A bit of moss on those kind of cliff that you can see just about poking through underneath. And a few little trees along here, which I really, really like the effect of. And the good thing about this texture, which I also put over the rail line, you can see another little spot of Gaga XM's amazing surfaces. Go and get that pack if you haven't already. It actually makes the retaining wall a little bit dirty because it sort of seeps over it here. It's a bit stripy, and I really like that. Really, really like how that comes across. Yeah, makes it feel a lot less clean than just having that plain retaining wall there otherwise. So yeah, very pleased with that. A quick note on up here as well. So I did add in 2 extra bus depot things. So further down the line, we've got lots of buses on this actual depot here. The extra garages, that's what I meant. But I've deactivated them for now to save our budget, which you can see is actually really quite nicely in the green, thanks to all of those offices. So yeah, pretty pleased with that. And we also hit 40,000 finally. But yeah, we've turned those off for the time being because we don't need them right now. So further down the line, we can reactivate those and that'll all be hunky-dory. And we've got a few little row houses in here. I added in another couple of condos right up next to the railway here, which I thought was quite nice. A little bit of parking around the back here too, saving some of our streets here, which actually, you know, considering how much parking we have got around here, it's not too bad. And I don't mind lots of cars outside houses. I'm fine with that. That's realistic. You'd park outside your home. It's more like this sort of section where it's all upside the street. But I guess, again, it's outside homes here, so it's not too bad at all. And then finally over here, not too much. Little bits of some boxes and trucks and dirtying up of some of the streets around the industrial areas. But that was pretty much it. And then just making sure they're nice and secure up next to the highway. So I think all in all, it's starting to blend into Tinny quite nicely. We've obviously got this sort of more quiet suburban area over here, which is just developing into much more higher density and a little bit busier, more going on out here than in the real depths of the suburbs of Tinny, shall we say. But I think it fits in pretty well with this highway. I'm quite enjoying the fact that up here we're nice and close to the highway and then it gets a bit more spread out. You've got that green belt behind it. So yeah, it sort of feels like a proper national road, I think, at least. You can tell me if you disagree. Also actually quite liking how we've integrated the rail line here. I think definitely getting rid of those retaining walls was a good idea. So thank you to whoever that was who suggested that. Really appreciate that. Definitely looks a lot better and a lot more natural. And yeah, just can't wait to see this intersection all busy and flowing when we finally get to put in that downtown. So for today, that is going to be it. If you have enjoyed the episode, likes, comments and shares are really greatly appreciated. There are ways to support the channel in the description below, along with Instant Gaming, where you can get huge discounts on a whole variety of games. But that's all from me for now, so thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you again next time. Bye bye!
The